Jim? Jim? So we have one more. We have one lady in seat. Don't let him miss.
Very nice to meet you. Good to meet you. Sorry, Dick. Promise I won't get you.
That's good. Thank you.
All right. I have to do with you on my iPad. I want
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you want me to hold on to it? It's okay. Oh, because I told him. Okay. Okay. I know you're on. Okay, so I'm going to ask the 5 of you to please stand for a moment. We're gonna do the creed. Okay. So it's a brother. Brothers.
Your seat, you guys. Yes.
That's what I just said.
No, go ahead. It's family.
Sure, I'm positive. These are for it's not me. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Tradition is everything's on. Only children are on the left. Okay. Do it.
Yeah.
So these are the ribbons. Okay, they're attached to your garment, and so we tear a ribbon in our tradition. Why do we do it? We do it for a number of reasons. Number one, because emotionally, when we lose somebody we care about, do something. That's a way of doing it. Okay, we're also so that other people.
This is good. Leaning on something from my back. Leaning on something from my back.
And so,
Huh?
tell me about it.
Yeah, I know. Back is not good.
They will know who you are and your work. It's getting to this day. It's not been easy for any of you. But you got to this day, and that's done. Now, our tradition says other people should take care of it.
You tell Steve to keep it short.
So allow them to. If somebody says, "Can I get you something?" and you're saying to yourself, "That's a lot." Yeah, I could use a present. Rather than getting up or something. That's what that means, right? So again, I said to you, if you want to say the blessing, that's fine. If you don't, it's okay. The blessing is, and please repeat it. Ata, Adonai, Praised are you, O Lord our God.
Praise are you,
Ruler of the
righteous judge.
I could be your picture.
You are a picture.
Am I really?
Sign a release. That's something you're supposed to do. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones for the service. The family's been seated. There is an extra chair if somebody would like to take it. The words of the 121st Psalm. We'll read it first in Hebrew and then in English. Esoinai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shemayim va'aretz. Al yatein lemot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilcha yad yaminecha.
Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka. V'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra. Yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha v'ovecha me'ata v'yad olam. I will lift up mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection. God is your guardian at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Eloheinu v'Elohe Avotenu, our God and God of all generations. Thou who governest all things with infinite wisdom and mercy, and who guidest the destinies of all of humankind. As a parent have you loved us and showered your blessings upon us. Therefore we shall not murmur even when sorrow befalls us, but with humility and unfaltering trust we shall accept your decrees. In joy and in sorrow alike we praise your goodness and acknowledge your justice. We remember that we are but strangers upon earth. Like a shadow our life flees away. Help us, O God, so to walk in your sight, that when the few years of our earthly pilgrimage are ended, we may be ready to meet our end with tranquil minds. To thee we look for comfort and strength. When one of our beloved is taken from us and a link is broken in the chain of love which binds us together. Though we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for you are with us. Be praised, O eternal our God, in all your dispensations, and sanctified be your name, now and forevermore. And let us say together, Amen. Dear friends, even in this age of wonderful technology, for those of us who are a little bit older, I'm not so sure it's wonderful, but it's there. Sometimes we don't always get what we're supposed to get. And I just want to say before we begin this particular part of the service, and we'll come back to other parts in a moment, I did not get Rob and Janet's remarks about his mother. And so I have it now on an iPad. So I'll read it in a few minutes, but I want you to understand what I'm trying to do. I did get Ron's letter, Ron and Karen's, and I have that with me so I can read that as well at the time. I wasn't going to, but now I am. So hang on. And what I want to suggest to those of you who are in the sun, come into the shade, please. I've been doing this for so many years. And Joyce, I don't want you to pass up. I don't want to pass. You're still in the sun. Come up here. It's okay. If you're in the sun at all, this is Colorado, and it gets tough. So first, I'm going to call upon Paul, a beloved brother, who wants to share some thoughts about his sister.
You want to take your notes and study while I do my?
No, I can read.
Oh, you're going to read.
I can read.
Okay.
I'm going to read Rob's
Okay.
in a few minutes.
Okay.
And Ron.
So I want to share a couple of thoughts about Rochelle Ruth Ramos. Growing up together in Columbus, Ohio, and then for a decade and a half or more in Denver, we were always referred to in one breath by our family and friends as Paul and Rochelle. Our mom never drove, so we walked everywhere together. To Hebrew school, from 1586 Newton Street to the old Hebrew Educational Alliance on West Colfax. We walked even to Cheltenham School in the snow.
Both ways uphill.
Oh, yeah, we did. We did. And then came Annette, who my dad, Zeta, called the Babala. Paul and Rochelle never fought. We never argued, never disagreed. Well, there was once when I put a hole in the screen door because somebody had locked the door. And that was the only time I can ever remember. Imagine knowing someone for over 80 years and never once arguing. I suppose she always did her thing and I did mine. And Buppy and Zeta just trusted us. They never imposed upon us as we ultimately became independent and responsible adults. That's the Rochelle I knew. The Ramos I knew took me a longer time. And that's my fault. About 30 years ago, Carrie and David and Zane and Ronnie, they got on me for not staying in closer touch with my older sister. After that, I got to know the Ramos clan better and better through our weekly Shabbos phone calls. Cindy and Ron and Robbie's lives and their beautiful spouses. I learned to visualize that in my mind as their families expanded and the Ramos grandchildren, Michelle and Josh and Adam and Morgan and Joseph and Jacob, and they all grew up, and their spouses. She dwelled on her love for her great-grandchildren, Reagan and Colton and Nixon and Owen. But what I want to share with you today is my sister's middle name, Ruth, which I never paid much attention to until the last couple of years. Ruth is predominantly a girl's Hebrew name, and the origin means friend in Hebrew. The name is a central character in the book of Ruth. And the book of Ruth in one of our, is one of only 2 holy books that have a female in the title. It shows us how God's good purpose works through ordinary people. Just like Ruth in the ancient story, and much like our mother, Bubi Jean Melmed, the Ruth who is leaving us now showed compassion, unfailing devotion, respect and grace, honesty, integrity, generosity, wholesomeness, virtue, and honor. She went out of her way to show kindness to everyone she knew. Rochelle got on a plane by herself many, many times during the decade-long Team Melmed Cancer Walks for Zane. Just last May, she came by herself to California to celebrate my 80th birthday. That was just a year ago. Rochelle's life fulfilled the words of Ruth in the Bible. Amech ami v'Elohayich Elohai. Your people will be my people, and my God will be your God. She had such a Jewish soul, such a heritage and love of traditional Jewish observances. Many people need to become more loyal in their everyday relationships. Some do not know how to make relationships work. Rochelle Ruth Ramos was a loyal woman who shared her life with everyone. Rochelle loved and cared so deeply for her family. Even in her sickness, she taught us always to try to heal others. One day, I was on a hospital phone with my sister, and I asked her who was in the room with her. She told me the nurse was there. Rochelle asked the nurse if she could bring her something to eat because she was hungry. When the nurse returned with 2 packs of graham crackers, "Are you hungry too?" The nurse said, "Yes." So Rochelle said, "Pull the curtain and sit down and sit on this bed with me." So the noise I heard was the 2 of them laughing while they shared family stories and they ate graham crackers together. What I learned from my big sister is the fundamental way of building resilience and strength amidst death and loss. It is rooted in chesed. Rochelle did not merely hold on to her own life, nor focus on her own weakening medical state. Rather, she focused her attention on caring for someone whom she always saw as having greater needs than her own. May Rochelle Ruth Ramos' memory always be for our family. Perpetual blessing. Zichrona livracha. The blessing in the book of Ruth is a blessing I have for my sister now, in conclusion. Yehi ratzon yagol lech al ma sititz. Yehiritse, Sitro, Lagmul, Ashri, Al, Yedei Adonai, Ohei Yisrael, Sitchat, Chanufi, Chanufu, Bachat, Lamzu, Makelet. Lamzu Makelet, yeah. May God repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Ken Yehiratzon, so may it be God's will.
So let me read from Ron, Karen, Joe, and Morgan. Okay, so it's misspelled. What can I do? Mom's favorite things in the world was to be around her family. Nothing else made her happier. When family would arrive for a visit, Mom was always on the go, always making sure everyone else was happy and well fed. Never putting herself first. She always had a way of making each and every person around her feel special. We talked about this in recent months, and she said very proudly that was how her mom was, always putting others first. She adored her mom. I believe her mom, my puppy, was her role model and her inspiration in life. What a beautiful family I was born into. The old cliche about mothers-in-law just doesn't fit Rochelle. The minute I met her and we learned we shared the same birthday, a forever friendship was formed. We had so many laughs and shared so many special memories that I will hold in my heart forever. Every year on our birthdays, I will toast you with a martini with 3 olives. I don't know, is that gin or vodka? Bobby was a special lady and loved so much by our entire family. Her cute sayings and jokes never failed to make us smile. But most importantly, she raised our dad to be the best dad we could ask for. And for that, we will cherish her forever. Her spirit will live on through all of us, and we will miss her so much. Bobby was the Bobby every kid wished of having. Always passing homemade treats under parents' noses and enticing mischief. Giggling as she drifted around the barren streets in her electric golf cart, we gripped our hats and waved to the bewildered neighbors. She somehow never lost her childhood, her sense of wonder and play. The only person I've ever known to do so. No matter where we were or what we were doing, she was just happy to be there. What a beautiful approach to life. Mom, Bobby, we will keep all the wonderful memories we have of you alive. Now rest in peace with Dad. Ron, Karen, Joe, and Morgan. And now I want to read a letter from Rob, Janet, and their children. In loving memory of my cherished Bobby, the presence illuminated our lives with warmth and affection. Her boundless love and unwavering support embraced us in the gentlest ways, leaving a lasting mark on our hearts. She possessed an extraordinary ability to inspire and uplift, always offering the best advice and kind words that guided us through life's challenges. Her nurturing spirit passed before us and will forever echo in our souls. Farewell, dear Bobby, as you reconnect with Zeta and those who have passed before. Just know that your legacy of love will continue to guide and inspire us. Rest peacefully knowing that your impact on our lives will be cherished eternally. And now, Rob and Janet. Mom had said many times that she could only dream of the life she lived. As with my bubby, she surrounded herself with family and cherished memories of a simple meal shared by those closest to her. I did not make it easy on Mom. No matter where my journey in life took me, Mom was always by my side to guide me. I remember a time where Mom and Dad had gone to Hawaii and left me as a 16-year-old at home, thinking I was old and mature enough to handle the independence. You didn't watch that movie. My friends and I had meticulously arranged the house as to not allow damage to any of the belongings for a small gathering of close friends. By the time the night was over, we had masterfully accompanied over 200 people in the house in a party so epic, it was memorialized in our high school yearbook. Unfortunately, I had forgotten to lower the chandelier and Dad noticed. After an hour of justified chores and reprimands by Dad, Mom pulled me aside and asked if everyone had fun. And what was the food that was served? My wife Janet had a special bond with Mom. They loved to cook, travel, and share coffee whenever time permitted. Janet taught Mom that it's okay to be independent and to show emotion. Wherever I called Mom, whenever I called Mom, the first words out of her mouth were, "How's the little lady?" Thanks, Ron. She was more than just a daughter-in-law. Come on. Rest in peace, Mommy. I love you. Hi, Annette. If you could please pass this along. Oh, that was a note. It was to Annette, but Dick gave me 2 copies of this one and not the other one. So I apologize. In a moment, I'm going to read the 23rd Psalm, but I always try to place it into a certain context. I know that it's a psalm. I understand that. And ostensibly written by King David. All 150 psalms were supposedly written by him. One of the reasons that we use it so often as we do, especially at moments like this, is because it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And I learned from one of my professors a long, long time ago that King David had something special in mind when he wrote those words. He wasn't just talking about death. What he was saying is to the family, to mourners, don't get stuck in the valley of the shadow of death. You have to walk through it. As difficult as it might be, and moments like this are difficult, you still have to walk through it and learn, as we've just so beautifully heard from the wonderful messages that have been delivered. Learn something from her life. Take something with you, and don't just take it with you, pass it on, because that's what our lives are supposed to be about. So I'm going to read the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew, and those of you who know it, you can read it with me if you want. And then I'll read it in English, and whoever knows some of it, please say it with me. Adonai roi lo echsor benot eshe yarbitzeni al me menuchot yinaleni. Nafshi shovei v'yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begetz hamavet, lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Yishanta v'shemen roshi kosi ravaya. Mach tov v'chesed. Yirdafuni kol yamei chayai. V'shavti b'beit Adonai la'orech yamim. For the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God. Poet has written, birth is a beginning and death is a destination. And life itself is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and from youth to age. From innocence to awareness and from ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength or from strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love. From joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion. From grief to understanding and from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death is a destination. But life itself is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life that is everlasting. Beloved family, dear friends, I hope you'll permit me just a few minutes to add to the very beautiful words that have already been shared with us. Certainly born out of a love that sons and their families, brother and his family, had with a unique and special person. It is always hard to come to this time and this place. And I don't mean just Temple Emmanuel Cemetery. I mean, anytime we lay a loved one to rest, always hard. Especially since, for you especially, it's just been a few months since your dad's death. And I want to say a word about that too, so that we can keep it in mind. His ashes are being buried with his wife. After 63 years, that's a pretty wonderful thing if you think about it. Whatever issues others had with them over their life, they managed during those 63 years, and I'm sure it wasn't always easy. Besides them coming from two different religious traditions, and 63 years ago, that wasn't easy for the Jewish community, for sure. But it also wasn't easy for your dad's community either. So it's not one has it over the other. But they overcame that. I am sure that there were moments in your lives as children that they fought with each other. I can't believe that after 63 years they didn't. But they lived together. They worked together. They loved each other. They loved you. They loved their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They loved their brother and sister. That's who she was. That's who he was. And so it's appropriate that his remains are here in this sacred place. In our tradition, we say that this land is Admat Kodeshu. It is sacred ground for a body or for ashes. And they are together. And it's important that we all understand that. It's also important that we understand that this burial takes place just a few days after Paul's grandson's bar mitzvah. I spoke with Paul the other day, and he said something to me that really touched me, and it's touched me even more after I read your messages about your mom and the stuff that you shared with me yesterday. You said to me, I know that this was a difficult time before her burial, but her presence was there. And who she was in life was there. And that is something I hope that the grandchildren and great-grandchildren will remember. Because we are not so physical that we have to be every place forever. We are more spiritual beings. See, our tradition says we are basar v'dam, flesh and blood, right? True. but we are also spirits. And our lives can have immortality. And we have to keep that in mind always, so that we keep what her wonderful, wonderful values were, keep them alive, pass them on to the next generation. So it was important that you shared with me that she was present the other day. Even though she was not physically, she was spiritually. And that's a wonderful thing to remember. Now we have to understand what this moment is about. We understand that sometimes things remain the same depending on the traditions from which we come. And sometimes the loss of parents, especially for you guys, is always the same. It's not different. You guys are orphaned in a short period of time. And it's hard. And we can only hope and pray that our presence and the thoughts that people have about your parents will remain as a source of strength for you and comfort. Poet wrote, "Death is sweet when it comes in its time and in its place, when it is part of the order of things. For a mother, death is only half a death. Each life in turn bursts like a pod and sends forth its seed. When a mother dies, for a second time, the umbilical cord is cut. For a second time, the knot is loosened, the knot that bound one generation to another. And now the mother lies broken, but at rest, a vein from which the gold has been extracted." I think that the poet had an understanding of this moment, because you as children and grandchildren, you are the gold that has been extracted from the vein that now lies broken, but at rest. And so we come to this moment. And there are some things that I do want to share with you as a rabbi, not as someone who had a relationship with your mom or your sister. I didn't. But there's some things I've learned over the years, and I think they're appropriate. And there are things to share with the next generation. I believe that you have 4 tasks in front of you. I say this all the time. But the older that I get, the more I realize that I think they're important tasks. First, you have to grieve. Can't put it aside and say, oh, it's okay. When you said to me you couldn't read this piece that I just got this morning, you said, I'll never get through it. I understand. Appropriately, you have to grieve. All of you have to grieve, because you've lost someone precious. And whenever you mention her name or the thought of her, who she was is going to come back to your mind. So the first task is to grieve. Second task, and I think especially in this case, we have to wonder about the miracle of birth and the mystery of death. And those of you who have been with me in moments like this know what I'm going to say. As many people as there are here, we have different points of view about what's going to happen to us when we die. Your dad was Catholic. I understand. And even all Catholics don't believe the same thing. And of course, all Jews don't believe the same thing. That goes without saying. But the truth is that there are a number of us here, and we all, in some ways, may believe different things about what happens to us. One thing I've learned over the years is they're all correct. I would never try to tell somebody, your point of view about immortality is different than mine, and mine's right and yours is wrong. And people come to me often and they say, Rabbi, what's going to happen to me when I die? I say, I always have 2 answers to that question. Number 1, I really don't know because I've not been there. And number 2, I am not anxious to find out. And while that smacks of some humor, it's intended to, because we don't know what's going to happen to us. But the one thing we do know is we have to live by what it is that we think it means. If we believe there's something beyond this world and we get rewarded for what we've done, then continue to do that. If we believe that there's nothing beyond this world and we live so that our memories go on and go on in a positive way, live that way, whatever it is. And there are so many different ways of thinking about it. Third task is to remember. To remember who she was, what she meant in life. Maybe this poem will be helpful about remembering. To the living I'm gone, to the sorrowful I will never return, to the angry I was cheated, but to the happy I am at peace. To the faithful I have never left. I cannot speak, but I can listen. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a shore gazing at a beautiful sea, remember me. And as you look in awe at the mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart and in your thoughts of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. If you always think of me, I will never be gone. And I believe that that's one of our tasks, is to remember who she was and how she tried to live her life in her highest moments of living. I also believe, and I think it's important to say this, our task at this moment is also to understand that whatever it is that she was, you have to emulate that in the next generation. I want to tell you how important that it was. You all made a very clear point with me that she was first generation American. Okay. That means something very important, and I want to share this with, especially with people who are not Jewish, may not understand this. I'm second generation American. My parents were first, and all my grandparents came from Eastern Europe. They did not come here because the streets were paved with gold. They came to this country in the early part of the 20th century because the streets where they came from were paved with hatred. Jews came to this country. Are you talking to me today? It's okay. They came to this country to escape the world of anti-Semitism of Eastern Europe. And they wanted something better for the next generation. Their job was to find a place. First generation here had another job, to secure the place that their parents came here to find. And we did it in many different ways. Yes, some people did very well financially in this country. It's okay, it's wonderful. But they came here to secure that freedom that their parents and grandparents came here to find. Next generation, they have a task as well. And that is to make sure that we don't forget, that next generation does not forget what the first generation born here came here to do and their parents came here to do. Cannot give that up. So we're in charge of continuity. Whatever that might mean to you guys, we're in charge of continuity. It's a one generation leads to the next. We also learn that we are not what it is that we do. We do what we do in life because of the kinds of people we were on the inside. And so when you shared with me yesterday these following things about her, she was devoted, and she was loving, and she was kind, and she was sweet. She lifted others up. She learned from all people, the high and the low. She adored her mother and wanted to be something like her. She was open and she was easy to talk to. She was the ultimate hostess in life, trying to make sure that people were comfortable when she was around. All relationships in her life were genuine. She took the time to get to know people. Family was most important to her. She was protective. She had an enduring love for her beloved husband. 63 years is a long time. Trust me, I know. I'm not there yet. 57 is what we got. But it's a long time. And we do the best we can. And even though there were different traditions that they shared, they did everything they could to make you guys comfortable in life and willing to share who they were in their highest moments. And so today we honor them both in this sacred space. And we hope and pray that whatever awaits them, whatever it is, that they will find it fulfilling, whether they know it or they don't. And that you all will find it fulfilling, even though we have no idea what's going to happen to us. And so to you, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, we hope and we pray that even though this is a difficult kind of day, you're not going to remember one thing that I said. I understand that. But your parents and grandparents are. Teach them. And to her beloved children, you can only hope and pray that you will have that same sense of carrying on what it was that she so loved about her own mother, that she wanted to carry that on. To you, brother and sister who shared all those years together, now you find comfort too in this moment of sadness. It is in that spirit then that we resolve to face our grief without self-pity, but with bravery and integrity, keeping before us forever the blessings that God conferred upon us in this life that he but lent to us for these many decades. And in a world where our most precious goods are perishable, let us resolve to honor our beloved dead by being so good to the living, so kindly, so understanding, so forgiving, so transcendent of pettiness, that in our love for her we shall hearken to those who remain and who need us in our strength. May it be through new relationships and new service to humanity that we make good our loss. And in the beauty of our own lives, erect the noblest monument to our mourned dead. Thus the beauty of her life and his life shall ever abide among us all as a living and loving benediction. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach. Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach me'atav v'ad olam. God has given. God has taken away. Praise be the name of God, now and forevermore. And let us all say together, Amen. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, you will remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the heat of the summer, we will remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we will remember them. When we have achievements based on theirs, we will remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us, and we will remember them. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar etchem b'tzamo v'zan chilkel etchem b'tuvo, והעמיק אתכם בדין ונטע בתוככם חיי עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, דיין האמת. We praise you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in your goodness, causing all of us to die and planting immortal life within us. We praise you, O God, Judge of truth. Eternal is your might, O God. All life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living. With great compassion you give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. We praise you, O God, who implants eternal life within us.
Far out from the far dust of art. Lay thou art into the floor of the earth. Into the Spirit of God, we commit your soul. Just a second, if you want to read along, because the English.
As many of you know, in our cemetery, we're not allowed to fill in the grave, although in Jewish tradition it is a custom. But in this cemetery, we are not allowed to do that. We just put a little bit of dirt on symbolically. And so when we're done with the service, we're going to ask for the mourners to take that time, if they want to put some dirt in the grave, to do so. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the Spirit which we have laid within the bosom of the earth. The Spirit itself cannot die, for here too our dear ones continue in the loving remembrance of those to whom they were precious. Receive in mercy, O God, the souls of our beloved Rochelle Ramos and Dean Ramos. Grant them that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, our mind has compassed it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion, now and forevermore. I would ask you now, dear family and friends, to please rise that we might recite together the words that have been hallowed by centuries of faith, the words that have been glorified in our tradition, the words of the Kaddish prayer. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabba, Yalma Divrach Yerutei V'yamlich Malchutei, Kaye Kon V'yamekon, V'kaye D'chol Beit Yisrael, Lagalav V'zman Kari V'yamram, Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam V'le'olmei Olmaya, Yit Parach V'yishtabach, V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh, V'yit Hadar V'yit Halev V'yit Halal, Shemei D'Kudsha B'richu, Le'elam Minkol Birchata V'shirata, Tush Bechata V'nechemata, Damiram B'yalma V'yimaru. Shalom Rabba Bin Shemaya V'chayim, Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimaru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mrama, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimaru Amen. El Malei Rachamim Shofim B'amoni, Amatzei Menucha Mechuna Tafet Kantei Shekhinah. Im Kedoshim Tolim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Yakirenu Shehalacha La'olama. Ba'al Rachamim, Yasireh V'Seita K'nofav Elamim, Vayitzror B'tzror HaChaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nechanata V'tanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavav V'Nomar Amen. O God, full of compassion, eternal Spirit of the universe, Grant perfect rest unto Rochelle Ramos and Dean Ramos, who have entered into eternity. O God of mercy, let them find refuge in your eternal presence. Let their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou their possession, and may their repose ever be peace. The departed whom we now remember have been called unto the peace of life of eternity. Their spirits shall live on in the earth, in the hearts of those who will ever cherish their memories. We pray that you as a family will find strength and courage in their memories. And let us all sit together. The departed whom we now remember have been called unto the peace of life eternal. They shall still live on earth in the acts of goodness they have performed, and in the hearts of those who will ever cherish their memories. The beauty of their lives ever abide among us all as a living and loving benediction. And may the source of peace send peace unto all you who mourn. And may God comfort all the bereaved among us, among Israel, among all the nations, and the families of earth. And let us all say together. Lech kishalach Adonai, go your way and may God be with you. Lech Adonai yeh imach. Go your way and may God comfort you. Adonai, another record of sin, the Shalom. Lach lefanecha tzidkecha kevod Adonai etzvach. May your righteousness go before you, and may the glory of God receive you. And let us all say together. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That does conclude our service today.